So thank you, Gunter, for asking me to do this. I really feel like this was the perfect time for me to do this, and you're going to know why by the end of this presentation. First, I'd like to know the audience. Is there anyone here in private practice? Can you raise your hands? Yes, I love it. Okay, and those of you who are in private practice, are you doing all lymphedema? Please raise your hands. Okay, this is so awesome. So if you're not, it's still okay. A lot of what I'm going to present on today, you're gonna take home and you can build your practice with it. Linda, wherever you are, that was an amazing presentation. I don't know if you saw me getting very giddy in the back, because when I hear someone talk like that, it feels like home. Because a lot of what I hear is the opposite, so it's nice to be here to see that other people are doing it the way we were taught and the way it should be done. So Gunter asked me to talk about the success of my private practice, and I had to sit with it for a while, because being in private practice is a tough thing to do. So I want to start off with my family, because my family has been my root. And right here, I have a husband, Chris. He's like my health and wellness guru. He's always been that way, and he has a big part in the growth of our practice now. And my sons, Cole and Noah. And this picture is very important to me because it was taken last November, and it was the first time that my family went away on vacation without it being work-related or someone else's wedding or and I didn't even realize that was happening until my husband said, can we go somewhere that we choose to go? So we went to Sanibel Island and had a blast. My work family, I have an office manager, Erin is in the purple, and Sue is our physical therapist assistant. And we've just recently added in our new lifestyle and wellness approach by bringing in a functional medicine health coach. Jeannie is in the center there, and we even now have a doTERRA wellness advocate because we use essential oils a lot within our practice. So just a little history about my private practice. In 2001, I was certified as the lymphedema therapist, and I too went right back. I was 6 months post-grad, and I went right back into the hospital setting that had a program, but I was limited to seeing one patient a day, and I almost got the eye rolls that because I was spending an hour with them, and they didn't understand what I was doing. And I was there for 4 years, and I knew there was something lacking. I really didn't get a lot of manual lymph drainage skills in, because when you're doing an hour bandage on a bilateral lower extremity stage 3 patient, how do you get manual lymph drainage in? So luckily for me, the rehab department closed in the hospital. So that's what kind of kicked me to talk with, I was working with Steve with this one particular patient who still was my first patient I ever saw, and I think up until this day, she probably still is the most severe patient I've ever seen of primary lymphedema. And I thank her, and I feel so grateful to have been put in her path, because she's the one who really lit the fire for me. And so Steve and I opened a private practice. We said, why not? We can do this in private practice. But because I was so used to doing orthopedics as well in the hospital, in the beginning we were doing 50% ortho, 50% lymphedema. And then in 2010, my husband and I obtained the full ownership, and we renamed it Wyatt Rehabilitation. At that time, my son was 6 months old, and his name was Cole Wyatt, so we rebranded it and brought Wyatt Rehabilitation. So we've been in private practice for 14 years. We were in the same location, and just recently in January, we moved to a new location, which was, again, just put right into my path, just like Gunter asking me to do this presentation. And it is so perfect, and I truly now feel like my practice is successful. And although we're still open, we are now thriving, and there are reasons for it, which I'm gonna take my presentation down that road. So even if you're not in private practice, I do believe a lot of this you can take home with you. We did merge my husband's business. He's the health and wellness guru. He doesn't know anything really about lymphedema, just from the conventions he's gone to with me, but he loves health and fitness. So we brought his business together. So a little public service announcement. I love saying this for everyone. When you're at courses and you're at conventions, if this content is something you already know, so ask yourself these 2 questions. So are you implementing this content in your work? if you already know it. And if you are you doing it to the best of your ability? So let's get to the meat. How is success measured? Think about this. When Gunther asked me, I said, well, what's success? I know what my success is, but you guys might think of it differently. So is it money? Is it what you feel, your happiness or your joy? Is it those great treatment outcomes that we heard Linda talking about yesterday? That's exciting. Is that success in your mind? How long can you stay open? Sometimes I actually thought that, well, I might be the longest lymphedema private practice, the length of time being open. Or how many patients can you see in one day? Or are you really trying to meet the expectations of someone else? And the last one, you can fill in the blank. It could be anything. If you don't end up what? Broke, depressed, in jail? I'm not sure. Like, what's your definition of success? And everyone in this room is gonna have a different idea, and that's okay. And that's what I want to fulfill. So the prerequisite for private practice is you must love what you do. You can't just like it, and you can't just be good at it. That definitely is a prerequisite. And then there's just this simple formula. The secret formula is skill set plus tool set plus mindset equals success. So I put skill set and tool set in parentheses because that's what we do as clinicians. We go to conferences and conventions and we get our CEUs and we strengthen our skill set and our tool set. But what lacks in not only our profession, in the world really, is our mindset. But if you work on that, this little spot in the middle, that little triangular spot, is the sweet spot. So for, I would say, 10 years straight, I worked religiously on skill set and tool set, and I completely neglected my mindset. And quite honestly, if Gunther asked me this 4 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said yes. So that's been my experience, and I'm gonna go through each one of these. So let's get down to the meat of each of these parts of the formula. So our skill set, Linda, you did such a great job going through the details of what we do, because we do need to bring back what we do and what we were taught. So grow your lymphedema practice by implementing the proven actions of the gold standard treatment. And it almost seems silly to go through this, but it's very important to continue to be doing multi-layered bandaging with foam, manual lymph drainage, skin and nail care, and this is the one that gets left out, garment measuring and fitting, self-care instruction, and another one that commonly gets left out is the follow-up. By far, I see a lot of patients who have already gone to see lymphedema therapists, and I always tell the patient after I interview as to what kind of treatment did you have, and I really dig because I want to know, were you bandaged? How often were you bandaged? Were you able to take your bandage off? How did you have manual lymph drainage? Did you take your clothes off? Because some places are doing manual lymph drainage over top of clothing. So I was surprised, but this is constant. So on this list, there's either one or all of them. And so shortened treatment time, shortened duration of treatment if they really need 4 to 6 weeks and you're giving them 2. And most of that is because of insurance purposes, right? We don't have it within our ability. Elimination of foams is almost a constant. I can almost know that if someone came to me because they didn't get treatment, they have either a rolled foam or just the Artiflex. No manual lymph drainage or shortened manual lymph drainage sessions. Manual lymph drainage in a large treatment room behind the curtain, hearing everyone's stories, and especially if they're disrobing, you're causing a lot of stress within that patient, and that's part of their success. CDT any less than 5 days a week. Linda did an awesome job on explaining why that is so important. And I will tell you, initially I was surprised that people were filtering it, and the reasons why some people say is that patients don't want to do it. I do feel like we can strengthen our craft in how we tell patients why it's so important, and we're going to go into that a little bit more in more detail. No on-site garment measuring and fitting. I loved when we talked last night about getting your garments when they're appropriate. You don't have to schedule. I don't know when I'm gonna measure a garment. I have an idea that week because they were plateauing, but that day I'm measuring for the garment and ordering it that day. No follow-ups after discharge. And all of these I did when I was in the hospital setting. So we're all well-intentioned therapists, but sometimes the programs filter it down for us and then we feel like we have our hands tied. But I used to say, when the patients were done with treatment, here's your prescription for your garment, go down to the DME store and call me if you have a problem. And I'm shocked that that's how I used to do it, now that the way I do it now. No in-services from garment manufacturers. You guys need to get these reps. Everyone in there that are in the exhibit hall, it's so great to have them come in and do in-services because there are constantly things changing. So use them. They are so willing to come in and be your resource so that you can learn. And they'll help you if you mess up. And that's what's really nice, especially when you're first starting to learn a product. Don't feel like you're going to be purchasing that product if you mess up. They're going to help you with that. And then focusing, again, in my experience when I was in the hospital, I was doing one patient a day. So that woman that I saw, I think I saw her for a year, every day. And I didn't learn anything else. So when you're doing full lymphedema, your experience level is really by far so much further than others who might only be doing one and then seeing other types of orthopedic population. So when we dig into the foundation, which we all have learned, multi-layered bandaging, the one thing I wanted to focus on that is we're not looking at Laplace's law. So I see this time and time again where we really should not be bandaging every patient the way we learned in the course. So being able to take your blinders off and really understand Laplace's law and applying it to every different patient individually. Manual lymph drainage. I think one of my habits that I was in is that I had an influx of obese patients that could not get onto their stomachs. And all of a sudden I had a 30-year-old secondary lymphedema patient, and I treated her the whole time on her back. So I bring that up because we need to keep re-exploring what habits are we getting into because of our patient populations. Exercise, obviously with movement, I'm also a big fan of not just prescribing a home exercise program, but find what sparks joy in their life, and we're gonna go through that too. And garment choice, so the therapist should be choosing the garment. So I get prescriptions from the doctors, which I love when they actually write the millimeters of mercury and what they think, but then I just send back my own detailed prescription. This is what I'm recommending. And sometimes I don't even know it till the end because I'm going between two, but then when you're learning that limb, you know best what garment should be put on that patient. And it's not just what objectively their lymphedema needs, it's how are they gonna don it? Who is their support at the home? So you're learning that throughout their intensive phase. So in my opinion, nobody else outside of your clinic or even another therapist would be able to choose that as best as you could. And then self-care training, really taking the extra days for those that you kind of have an idea that you're gonna have to try different gadgets. We have sample assistive devices of every single one so that they can try what fits or works best for them. This is my favorite part now, and actually because as a physical therapist assistant, Sue does all of the intensive treatments. And I think it's because of 14 years of building up clientele, I see all my patients either at the very minimum annually for their garment replacements because I'm measuring and fitting for garments. But when they come out of CDT phase 1, this is just a protocol that I don't stick with this 100% of the time. It really depends on the patient and how they've gone through CDT. But typically we're gonna schedule them for their CDT phase 1 and then we're gonna see them a week later. We're gonna make sure what we taught them they're doing, and if they had a couple issues with donning the garment or it's twisted, we'll be able to fix it right away. Then if everything's good, we see them in 1 month, then we see them in 3 months, and then every 6 months. This allows us to see them throughout the seasons, because what is another big dynamic? The summertime. And then I treated someone in the winter and I didn't tell them exactly what to do when they go to the beach. So I love using that protocol, and then afterwards I really get a sense as to whether I'm seeing them twice a year or annually, because at the very least you have a goal to replace garments that are now not going to be used. So assessing their self-care when you do these follow-ups is about new garments, modifying garments, changing their wear time, or maybe you're adding in self-care tools, maybe you're doing more self-manual lymph drainage, or adding a flexi-touch. But begin and continue looking at lifestyle changes, which we're going to go into next. Another big thing, I think a lot of the reasons that our patients, the more challenging ones, are challenging is because we need to give them understanding, support, and empowerment. My practice has shifted so much since I finally started listening to my husband. He's been this wellness guy. I mean, when I went on our first date, I was eating French fries and like chicken wings, and he had a chicken Caesar salad. He was just always into nutrition, but we never combined it. And then I started learning for myself about my own nutrition, about how cleaning up my own diet, and a lot of that helped some things that were going on with even with the clinic, with the stress that was going on. So we look at nutrition. So I like to look at them in 4 different areas. So first is nutrition. And in terms of our patients, we can be talking about what are pro-inflammatory foods. Sugar, gluten, dairy, all of those will start to increase inflammation. And there's a nice list of anti-inflammatory foods. Most of them are just, if you want to put it simply, whole foods, whole vegetables and fruits. Discuss water intake and the importance. We all know water is good for us, but like Gunter said, I love that he emphasized that I need to drink even more because of where we are. Take more time educating your patient as to why water is important. In my area, I'm very big about, has anyone here ever heard of functional medicine? Love it? Okay, so we are really big with functional medicine. IFM, we have a functional medicine health coach in our practice now, and we work with a couple that are in our area, functional medicine physicians. So especially our lipedema patients, all these patients that have diabetes and autoimmune conditions, this isn't our specialty, but you can refer them and tell them that, yes, it's not going to be covered by your insurance, but why should we make that judgment? I have people that I wouldn't think would have gone to a naturopath or a functional medicine physician, and they are, and they're changing their life. They've got their lymphedema under control, but now this is the marathon. They're changing their lives because they're getting the information that they need in order to build health and not just treat their condition. So I make those referrals. The second lifestyle area is exercise. So again, I go back to, as physical therapists or occupational therapists, we think of home exercise programs, the printouts and how many times to do them. But can't we just talk to our patients about what they enjoy, and will we get a more positive outcome? Will we get more consistency, which guess what, helps on all these other lifestyle areas? So they might like swimming, they might like walking. I even have a woman who shops more now because I know she's gonna actually get up and go. So we offer wellness classes. So a lot of people have different interests. I'm sure we all have different interests. So we should be putting the blinders off from our home exercise programs and giving them more, talking to them about more. This is my favorite area because I've learned through functional medicine, 90% of our diseases and chronic symptoms are either caused or worsened by stress. And I interview my patients at initial eval now, and I say, does anyone talk to you in your healthcare arena about how you manage stress? And I usually get a confused look. But then the next thing is I get this spark of, well, how can I manage my stress? And for me, managing my stress was working so hard to get the vacation so that when I got back, I just got dumped right back into the stressful, I called it the treadmill. I was on a treadmill, constantly trying to keep up. But once I started managing my stress daily with self-care habits, everything changed. So now, again, I did that on myself first, and now I'm teaching my patients. So essential oils are huge in my practice. We diffuse every day. We now are using them within the treatment sessions, and I get the benefit as well. So you know those patients that you kind of feel like you have to put the bubble on before you go in because you don't want them to suck your energy? I use the essential oils, and nobody even really understands that I'm doing it. So it's a nice way. EFT, we've had guest speakers come in about tapping. So using tapping, if you've heard of it, journaling, gratitude, a morning and evening routine. So I can do a whole nother class on all of those, but these are just things that you can do daily. And when you do small things, 5 minutes a day, I used to say I don't have time for that, but 5 minutes a day, it makes huge, big outcomes. And then we really need to talk about our sleep. ourselves as therapists as well as our patients. We detoxify everything that we come in contact with that day while we're sleeping. So you want those 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. And then the last area is usually an area that nobody, at least my patients, don't understand, and they feel most empowered. I usually actually start with this in self-care because it's the easiest one, and I start to spark some empowerment in them. So we have toxins everywhere, but how do toxins enter our body? It's what we apply on our skin, so our makeup, our skincare, our food choices, so what we're ingesting, the laundry detergents we use, the sunscreen, the cleaning products. There are things we can't control, like those 5G cell towers that are now coming out and all of these things that are in our environment. But when you're told that there are things that you control in your home, that really sparks some empowerment. And so what I tell my patients, because what are we teaching in CDT? We're teaching skincare. We're teaching these patients who have autoimmune disease to put lotion on their bodies every single day. So I always give out the reference ewg.org, so Environmental Working Group. Raise your hand if you know that group. Oh, love it. Okay, so Environmental Working Group is a nonprofit organization that has a section just for skin products. So it's called Skin Deep. You just click in what it is, and I have kind of pushed aside all the lotions that I was just finding the best deal at Target or whatnot, because now I know what's inside them, and a lot of them are allergens or parabens we know that we want to just take out of our daily equation. So patients don't mind doing that, and they could be the most unhealthy patient that has 10 comorbidities, but when I give them that website, it's like a scavenger hunt, like, ooh, let me go see what I have at home, and I'm gonna look it up, and it shows them how to rate it, and they can start reducing their toxic load. So that's our skill set, that's what we do. The next thing in our formula is the tool set. This is the shortest section because that's pretty easy. The exhibitors are gonna handle this side for me. But we need to be putting into our practice or our programs foams, bandages, lotions, all the things that we need. If you're lucky and you can bring in bioimpedance, our practice just had the Sozo delivered, so when I get back, we're getting trained, and I'm so excited because Sozo gives you so much more information about their health, not just their lymphedema. We use LymphaTouch, FlexiTouch, and the most important thing on private practice is you need a really good billing electronic medical records. So take the time to interview those because you need a really good one. Okay, now let's go to the part where we don't normally talk about. So we always do professional development, but I want to touch on our personal development. So the foundation of your success is who you are, combined with what you believe and value. Living these attributes will fuel your success. So I didn't even know what personal development really was, but personal development is working on the best version of you. And when you do that, things start dropping in your life. It almost seems like coincidence, but it's because of what you're doing in your own life that's attracting even those patients that might not be your ideal patient and they're not committed or they're not doing what you're asking them to. When you can change how you're approaching it, they do change. And that's been my biggest epiphany in the past couple years. So let's talk about us first. What can we do as therapists to work on our personal development? Number one, those 4 areas of lifestyle. If you resonated with any one of those, you can rate yourself 1 to 10. How good am I with my nutrition, with my exercise, with my sleep and stress management, and my reducing toxic load? The next thing when you go, after you're working on that, you really need to have staff meetings. There was a time in my clinic where we didn't have staff meetings, and I can't believe how we survived. I'm gonna go through another personal development tool called Sin Room. There's another one called Beliefs, and then Finding Your Purpose. So we went over daily self-care. Your daily habits for you are your 4 areas, and practice them every day. So it's not like you have to set aside extra time. You're blending it into your daily regimen. Nutrition, exercise, stress management, sleep, and reducing toxic load. Staff meetings, I call them calm the crazy. We're all busy and we're all interacting, but I think the small interest group that Linda talked about yesterday, those are the staff meetings or the Sin Room that we do at my private practice. So discuss patient cases, summarize them, discuss your upcoming events, when you bring a problem, and you want to encourage problems to be brought up, because people might see different things in different lights. So when you bring a problem up, I would say bring 2 solutions, because as a private practice owner, I can't be the one who gives the solution to every problem. I want to hear and I want to engage in how we can provide a solution. And then celebrate the successes. We don't do that often enough as humans. We always are thinking, what can I do, or how can I fix this, or what are the problems? But we need to celebrate our successes. And then discuss problems towards goals. Staff meetings is developing a relationship between you and your staff. Sin Room, again, this plopped into my lap. Jared Yellen is he owns a marketing platform called Sinduit, and I pay monthly for him to help me give me content for events. Like when I schedule events, I'm not very good with social media. I do post, but those of you who might see my posts, Jared Yellen helps me. And so this is a marketing platform. Now, he works a lot with health, so he does functional medicine health coaching, functional medicine physicians, physical therapists, chiropractors, but he shared this with the people who are in his tribe, he says, that when you have a Sin Room is one day. Now, we did a 4-hour one last year, and we just had our new one in January. We did 4 hours. We didn't schedule patients and just the staff. We had 4 hours. And we define our ideal patient. And I can't tell you how important that was as a practice owner, because when you define your ideal patient, we can all think of the patients that we love that did really well. Think about why. And think about their traits, and think about their personalities. Maybe think about their insurance, maybe think about how their resources were, but put it all together and define your ideal patient. That's not to say that your non-ideal patients won't come through the door, but I can't believe how much different it is now when I make decisions, and the staff, we make decisions. We make decisions based off this ideal patient, and it makes it so much easier. And guess what's happening? We're getting so many ideal patients in the practice. It's like a light switch. So your vibe really does attract your tribe. And Jared also talks about a wildly important goal. I love him, he's very animated, and it's a structure to help plan your entire year in advance. Now remember, that wasn't a lymphedema. He has no idea what lymphedema is. He has a little bit of content on physical therapy, but we have to always look at opportunities within our lives and what comes across our path, because we aren't 2 people. We're not a work person and a personal life person. We need to blend them. Who here has only been trained within the last year? Okay, good. So we have people that are coming right out. I love this belief column because it's a natural evolution of where you are within your lymphedema practice. So at first, you build a belief on the treatment, right? We know the gold standard and it works really well. And we're starting to believe it. We're going, wow, this really works. Then it's about the career opportunity. My gosh, we need more lymphedema therapists. And there's so much opportunity to bring patients into our practices. Then you start really developing beliefs in your skills. Now you're taking your blinders off, you're really engaging in more challenging patients, and you're still reaping successes, and you're going, wow, I'm really believing in my skills. Then the natural progression is to believe in your team. So then you start looking at how everyone else is doing things, and you're starting to believe in how cohesiveness is existing within your team. And then you're going to start believing in your why. And not many people get to this. So I hope that what I say today, you can really look at your why. Because once you reach that point, then you can be an influence, not only on a stage presenting, but to your families, to your children, to your patients, to your coworkers. So how do you find your purpose? I read this somewhere. I read a lot. I don't read a lot. I listen to audiobooks. I found Hoopla, which I'm not sure if everyone has in their area, but Hoopla is a free app that connects to your library card, so you can get all these free audiobooks. And one person said, how do I know what am I supposed to do? That's what we commonly ask ourselves. Like, what am I supposed to be doing in life? But we often don't ask, how do I know why I'm here? So when you know your why, your what becomes so much more empowering and impactful. So for 10 years, I knew what I was supposed to do. I was really good at it, and I practiced it, and I was a single one in my area, and people were coming from out of state, and it felt good, but I didn't really know why I was doing it. I don't even really know why did I go to physical therapy school. Well, my mom told me I would be good at it. And then I like to help people. But when I really dug deep, I like to bring hope and empowerment to people to feel well. And then I asked even further, and I'm still evolving on this, but I love feeling that spark. Does anyone watch Marie Kondo? You know, tidying up. You know how she says, hold the piece of clothing, and if it gives you that spark? That spark for me was dying throughout my private practice, but it's lit up again. And the reason is because of mindset, because of personal development. So I love seeing the spark in someone's eye when I tell them about ewg.org, and they're like, wow, I can go and do something that's better for myself. Because let's face it, obesity is a big problem, but I think, in my opinion, the doctors are not telling them how to lose weight. And we're not trained on nutrition in PT school, so you do need to do extra work, but why not do it for yourself first? And why not collect the resources for your own life and then share that with your patient? So how do you work on personal development? Books, audiobooks, seminars, events. I mean, it could be anywhere you're going. You may not even be planning it. But you could schedule time. It doesn't need to be a lot of time. 5-minute morning routine can be enough to keep your stress levels down so that you're making better decisions, so that you're treating your patients better, you're treating your coworkers better. So working mindset daily with all relationships is key. And personal development strengthens your mindset, so work on your best you. I'm going to share just a few of my absolute favorites so that you can have an idea of what books that I read, but know that not everyone is going to have the same interests that I do. It starts with food, was written by Dallas Hartwig. This is the Whole30 program, but this book specifically taught me about nutrition because I didn't learn that in PT school. I learned it from my husband. But this really gave you a good balance of science as well as analogy. So a lot of patients went out and bought this. And some of my patients who were in self-care, managing their lymphedema well, started changing their food choices. And now I'll do an LDEX, I have one woman, she was the first person that opened my eyes to this. Because I was doing this book for myself, and I told her about it. She went out, and she was a 26 on her LDEX. And I couldn't get her any farther with treatment. She was doing everything compliantly. She came back after doing the Whole30 6 weeks later, and she was a 6.8. And that is not because of edema. It's inflammation. We are not eating right. So if we learn how to choose the foods we put in our body, we can make our lymphedema patients in self-care even better. So now she doesn't wear a night garment. And that has never been in my mind. You know, when I see a stage 2 patient and I'm telling them you have to bandage or you have to do night garments, I never think they might be able to come out of that. The secret code of success was put in my lap. I would have never chosen this off the shelf because it looks boring and it looks like a business book. And I'm not a business person. Even though I'm in business, I love the clinical end. But it should be titled The Secret Code of Life. I have patients purchasing this now. It taught me how to say no. So if any of you out there are the ones that just kept saying yes, 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 to the point where your plate is so full that you're stressed out and you're not doing stress management, this book will teach you how to say no and still feel good about it, as well as it taught me how to train my subconscious mind. So we have a subconscious mind and we have a conscious mind. And I'm now teaching my children how to say affirmations. And without going into great detail, this was the first personal development book that really connected with me. Now I pull this up here and you're gonna say, why is she talking about parenting at a lymphedema convention? But positive parenting solutions, we were having some consequence issues and power struggles with my 10-year-old, and this fell into my lap. It was a free course on Facebook, and I said, oh, let me listen to that on the ride to work today. And I ended up purchasing her lifetime program. It was $200, and it was an awesome investment because now I'm using it on my patients. So she taught me how to change my wording, and I'll give you an example. I used to say to my son, if you don't do this, then you're not gonna get this. But she taught me to say, when you finish with this, then you can have this. So a when then is so much more empowering than if you don't. So we also have to look at how we're talking about to our patients, and we're not doing it intentionally. A lot of people do it. And so she got me to be, I'm not a yeller anymore at my children, and now I'm able to connect with my patients a little bit more. The other one, the conscious parent, this one taught me how to be present with my kids instead of thinking, what do I have to do next, which was my way of thinking. So I read it for my kids, but it also helped me to be present within my treatment sessions and not thinking who's coming in next or who's picking up the kids after work. I'm much more conscious in every single treatment. Okay, so if you guys didn't resonate with anything, resonate with this. Everybody should take the Gallup Strength Finder test. Everyone on the earth. I think I got it for my husband. I bought it for my employees. They have sales, sometimes it's $20, and if you want to open up the whole thing, it's $50. But basically what it is you take a 30-minute test and you find out what your strengths are. So mine are, number 1 is empathy, 2 is developer, 3 responsibility, 4 positivity, and 5 harmony. So do you see how some of them are blue and the one is purple? Blue is a relationship building strength. I think all of us have blue, right? We must all have blue. The purple is executing, the red is strategic, and the yellow is influencing. So when you look at these, they give you PDFs, they give you videos, they tell you what your strengths are. It's like a horoscope for yourself, because you are not going to be able to make choices and treat your patients really, really well unless you know how you can do it, what your strengths are. So I ended up going and doing this for my husband, and I found out we're exact opposites. So his empathy is 34, and all the strategic are way up high, so we're like yin and yang. And that actually helped my marriage a little bit, because sometimes we don't want to fix things or change someone, we just want to understand them. And when you understand yourself, you get to understand your patients even better. For private practice, I'm always a money person. I was always the person who did the bills, and so I thought I knew what I was doing. But this book really gives you a good understanding of how to be okay with money, like your relationship with money. We don't talk openly about money. But this book gives 4 laws, and it allows you to have an empowering relationship with money, whether you are in so much debt that you think you're going to die with it, or you're doing really well and you're not really spending well. You could be giving back more. Every single person could benefit from this book as well. And then this is a fun one, Girl Wash Your Face. This is about all the lies we tell ourselves. So I loved this one. This was a very animated, well-written book. And for the men in the room, I have not read this one yet, but I stole this from my husband before I left. He's reading this one, $1 Million Mindset, which was recommended from another male on our team. So he is reading $1 Million Mindset. So after I tell you that, with understanding mindset, can we now revisit this slide? How is success measured? So you are the only ones to be able to write down what you want for your private practice or your program. Most of the time we're thinking money, but I challenge you to think beyond it and really put it together and find what really will be successful in your eyes. Then, once you have that answer, how you define success, and then think about that ideal patient I told you about, then you can answer these questions clearly. Are you going to be a Medicare provider in private practice? Are you in or out of network with insurance? Are you a cash-based practice? Are you going to sell garments? Are you going to sell the devices? Are you going to sell the supplies? Do you offer other cash-based services in your private practice? And what tool set do you offer in your practice? So for me, this was very unclear, and I think a lot of it was because of the stress levels that we're under. I didn't have clarity in my mind. I was just on a treadmill. But now I feel so engaged in my work. I literally love, love, love my work. So we are a Medicare provider. We are out of network with every other insurance company, and the reason is because if you're in network, no matter what you negotiate, they are telling you what you can do within your treatments. So I really like staying out of network, and I know I'm not going to be able to see everybody, But I know that when I offer it and they know the services that we provide, they do come. Are we a cash-based practice? Meaning, no, we do bill insurance. And we absolutely, I believe if you're going to be in private practice right now, that may change in the future, but right now with reimbursements, with Medicare and the population, I really think you need to sell the garments. We sell garments in the practice. We sell the bandages. So everything is right there if they need it. And then we offer functional medicine health coaching. We offer classes. We have a crystal bowl meditation class every month. So we're bringing other things into our practice to make it this health and wellness practice that I love. Now, I'm not saying for you guys to go home and do that, but that's what my purpose was. That's what I love doing, and now it's engaging my practice again. So some great resources for private practice is definitely be involved in your APTA. So when you're in a small practice, you don't have all the resources right at your fingertips. But when you're in APTA, and especially the private practice section, which is the most expensive, but it is by far the best tool that I use in order to figure out the answers to my questions. So the Impact magazine, I feel like it follows my journey throughout private practice life. So when we were switching from paper to EMR, they had like 3 magazines worth, a whole year worth of comparing the EMR systems. So that was really, really helpful. And they go through, they're actually putting in health now, and they're putting in personal development. So your EMR system, we use Clinician, and I found that to be an easy documentation template. Rick Gowenda, if you're new and you're starting in private practice or you don't know anything about billing and you have questions on billing, Rick Gowenda is a PT, and I like his seminars. I took a couple of his seminars in the beginning and really understood documentation and coding and billing. And then we have our personal development books and our Gallup Strength Finder. So what's the take-home message? Skill set and tool set are only part of the equation, but we often just underrate the mindset. So I challenge you to start looking at your own personal development and then pass that forward to your patients. We must continue to work hard to strengthen the skill set. What Linda said last night was so empowering, because we can't filter down what we know already works, because then the doctors don't think CDT works. So we need to prove to them by doing it the right way that it does work. I had a man, he was a doctor, and he was just recently treated, and he called me up, and he had a brain tumor. So they removed the brain tumor, so now he has no filter. So he calls me up, and he says, and him and his wife were I talked to him about 5 days a week. He was gonna do it. He's an hour away. He's gonna drive up. Everything was set. And he called me up the day before his treatment, and he said, "What is your success rate?" And I said, "What do you mean, my success rate?" He goes, "Can you guarantee that this will work?" And I said, what I usually tell my patients is that if you don't have a medical condition that doesn't allow you, like congestive heart failure, cellulitis, and you commit to what we're recommending, it always works. So I want you to think about that, because in 14 years, it always works. And so the people who did not do well, I'm not saying I have patients who are doing 100% well all the time, but they didn't commit. So what am I working on? I'm working on the personal development. I'm not giving up hope on them, but I'm able to be okay with that because of my own personal development. And we also must stay on top of our tool set. So using our great exhibitors today, our vendors, we want to look at our garment reps, and we want to use them in order to teach us. So most of my experience, or my presentation is on my experience, but when you strengthen each part of the formula for you, you're gonna find that little sweet spot, which is really magical. It's exciting. And last but not least, I talked about the prerequisite. I love this picture. I'm gonna end with, this is my husband and I right before we opened the practice in 2005. Look at our facial expressions. We have no idea what we're getting ourselves into. No idea. My husband's like, what am I doing? And I'm like, I think this is gonna work. And this picture is in the elevator. My husband and I are bringing up the high-low mats up to the 3rd floor of our new location, and my face is beaming with joy and confidence, and he's kind of saying still, what am I doing? What am I getting myself into? But it is a journey, and I encourage everyone to work on your personal development, and I think the magic will start happening not only for yourself, but for your families and for your patients. So thank you.